How's it going, everyone? Sean here from Raw Technique Studios. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how I got my Apollo X8 and ScreenFlow to properly work together. I know there's a lot of people trying to figure this out on the forums for ScreenFlow and on UAD as well, and neither of them have a good answer on any of the forums that I've been able to find. So I put together a bunch of information and finally figured it out, and hopefully this helps anybody that has this issue as well. I don't expect this to be one of my more popular videos because not everybody's trying to screen record and have an interface that has this issue, but it's something that I want to be able to look back on, and for anybody who has this issue, finally solve it, because I know it's a headache to try to figure this stuff out. So what I'm working with is my DAW is Pro Tools version 2020.12, and I'll show you that right here, version 2020.12. And then ScreenFlow, let's look at that. This is version 8.2.6 for ScreenFlow. Not sure if it's going to work in other versions of ScreenFlow, but I don't see why it wouldn't. And the way I have it set up for ScreenFlow is using the Aggregate Device for the Record Audio From section. And there's a couple other things that you're going to need as well. So Pro Tools is my DAW, ScreenFlow is my recording software for the screen, and then I need something called Soundflower. So this is something you're going to have to download as well. So I just go into GitHub, and you could just download it right here. This is the download right there. And this is all for Mac. So if you're on a Windows, this isn't going to apply because ScreenFlow is only for Mac. So that whole setup's not going to work if you're on Windows. But go ahead and download this, get Soundflower installed. And then once you have that installed, you're going to have to go over here to the audio Midi setup. So you could just go to the little search bar, type in audio Midi, and then setup, and it shows up right here. So go ahead and just open that up. You'll get this. So you have your interface, whatever your interface is. In my case, it's the Universal Audio Thunderbolt. Right now it's set up as the mic signal right here. Now, when you're setting this up, you want to change it over to use this device for the sound output as well. But for some reason, whenever I do a screen recording, once I press record, it switches it over to Telestream audio capture. I'm not sure why. It doesn't matter because I can switch it back here and it doesn't change anything. So just go ahead and do this. Put your mic and your output right here on your interface. You just right click, select those two for that. Now the next step is going to be setting up the aggregate device and the multi-output device. Starting with the aggregate device, you just hit this plus signal right here, create aggregate device. Once it pops up, you need to select the things that you're going to be using. And what you want to use is your interface. So put the little check mark under use for your interface, and then check mark for Soundflower 2-channel. For the drift correction, I select the Soundflower one right here. And for the clock source, I have it at Universal Audio, which is my interface right there. And then another thing you have to do is go to Configure Speakers, and you're going to switch this over to Virtual 1 and Virtual 2. So just go ahead and select that and select that. So after you have that set up, you're going to go to the plus signal again, create a multi-output device. And then this will pop up here. Same thing, select your interface for use and select Soundflower 2-channel for use. Drift correction, I put it on Soundflower. Master device is the interface. And then configure speakers, it's just monitor left and monitor right. Okay, and then done. So that's it inside of the audio MIDI device setup. So go ahead and get rid of that. And then we're going to go into console because I want to show you how this is set up. So if you're using Apollo interfaces, then you have console for all of the integration for the audio, how to set it all up and everything. Now, first thing I want to say is mute out everything, because if I unmute this, you're going to hear a double up. It's really annoying, and it's not something you're going to want to record. If you go all the way over here on the right side, you'll see a Virtual 1 and a Virtual 2. Pan the left one, or the Virtual 1 to the left, 100% to the left, and the Virtual 2, 100% to the right. And then make sure those are also muted out. So that's it on this section here. Under settings, whatever interface you have set up, you're going to go ahead and put the setup here. So if I scroll up to the top, this is the single Apollo X8 Pro Tools preset. It's just what they have for the Apollo X8 being used with Pro Tools. I go ahead and load that up, and it automatically puts everything like this, which just gives a little space here for the whole setup with like outboard gear and everything like that. It makes it to where it all could work. So if you scroll down, and you'll see on your output 21 and 22, that's virtual 1 and virtual 2. So that's going to be used in a later part of this video, but that's just something that you'll want to keep in mind. 21 and 22, that is virtual 1 and virtual 2. Okay, so when we get into the editing side of it, you'll see why that matters. All right, so that's console setup. You have your audio MIDI device set up. Inside of Pro Tools, I go here to set up playback engine, and it's just my interface like normal. So nothing changes there. That's the same as always. Go to your I/O and just set it up as if you're just working with your unit. So this is following the instructions on the UAD website, and it's defaulted to have nothing on the track 1 and 2 here, and then it goes through like that. So this is just how it's set up. You'll see virtual 1 and 2s here. Output, it's just the natural default settings here. Bus, default settings there. The inserts, this is where you have to change something. So this whole section right here, originally it's like that. But what you have to do is select everything except those last 2 right there, and then just move them over 2 spaces. All right, so it's going to double up on the end, but that leaves this little gap right here, and that's going to make it to where your outboard gear could work properly with your audio interface. So that's the interface set up with your DAW. Press OK. So now we could actually get it set up to where the audio's going into ScreenFlow how it should. So I have a bus set up right here, bus 1 and 2, going full volume, and that's going to be sent into this aux track, which are renamed ScreenFlow output. So this is how the audio gets into ScreenFlow. Because if I play this right here and I don't have this, I could hear it here in the studio, but ScreenFlow is not going to hear it and it's not going to record it. So the recording, there's nothing there. But if I turn this on, now ScreenFlow is hearing it and it can record it. So bus 1 and 2 is going into this aux input, and you see the input right here is bus 1 and 2. And the output of this aux input is going to be virtual 1 and 2. So that's how everything gets sent in. It's virtual 1 and 2. Now, this I'll explain later. This is for being able to monitor stuff from like Spotify, which is a cool bonus that I figured out during this whole process. But that's all you need for now. Any audio that you're hearing in your DAW that you want sent into ScreenFlow for the recording, make sure it's sending into a bus that has the output virtual 1 and 2. If you have an audio track that doesn't have that bus on there, it's not being sent out, you'll hear it here in the studio just fine, but you won't hear it on the recording, and that's something that could get annoying. So just make sure that that 1 and 2, or whatever bus you're sending it into, as long as it's going into these virtual 1 and 2 output. Okay, so let's listen to several different versions of this. There's going to be the audio that's just in the session as is, and then we're going to listen to outboard gear being used as well. So here's just the audio as is. So remember not to wait too long. I can feel the pressure. All right, here it is going through one of my pieces of outboard gear that's set up on my thing on 3 and 4 here. So this is the Warm Audio bus compressor. So remember not to wait too long. I can feel the pressure building. Love it when I lose control. Nothing lasts forever, which is better. So you hear me making those adjustments there. Now let's do another unit here. So remember not to wait too long. I can feel the pressure building. Love it when I lose control. That's the Pro VLA 2. And then let's do another unit. So remember not to wait too long. I can feel the pressure building. Love it when I lose control. That's saturation, which you could hear. I really pushed it so you could hear that crunchy sound. That's the saturation unit. Now, in ScreenFlow, I'll show you the editing side of it, of how you could hear each one of these as they are actually running through the outboard gear, instead of hearing the original signal that's not running through it, because it comes through in a couple different ways. But that's how you go through your outboard gear. The one thing I still haven't figured out is how to have multiple pieces of outboard gear all at the same time and the signal just be the sum of all three of them. Instead, ScreenFlow separates them into 3 different ones. So I have this audio signal, and this audio signal all separate. And when I try to sync them and I put them together, they sound a little bit jumbled and not in place. So that's the one thing I haven't figured out yet. It's just one insert at a time going to outboard gear that I could monitor. All right, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. Now let's look at how to set it up where you hear, say, Spotify's input signal. So if I switch over here to Spotify, let's go ahead and press play, see how it sounds.
Nothing lasts forever, which is better.
So I can hear it fine in my headphones. ScreenFlow should be hearing it fine as well in the recording, but Pro Tools isn't having it come in yet because I have it muted. So what I did was create an aux input track, and this time the input is virtual 1 and 2. That makes it to where anything played outside of Pro Tools on like Spotify, for example, it's going to go into Pro Tools through virtual 1 and 2. And then the only thing I have here is just so I could monitor loudness, dynamic range, stuff like that. This makes it to where any source, like you could play a bunch of your favorite songs, and the incoming signal you can now monitor and see what is it, how loud is it, what does it look like on the audio spectrum and stuff like that. All right, so let's just look at the spectrum here. I'm gonna go ahead and unmute this, but first, before it actually works, because if I press play it won't work yet.
So remember not to wait too.
You can see it's not going into Pro Tools yet. We have to go over to the audio Midi setup, go to Aggregate Device, right click on it, and put use this device for sound output. Now if I press play on here, it'll come in Pro Tools.
I can pack my bag, got my baby mama house left to my side chicks. Wonder how I get some cash today. Need more profit, should I re-up or should I clock and I do both? I'd rather die than lose my hope. I walk.
So say you're looking at a bunch of songs that you like and you want to hear the levels of things, you want to hear how it sounds in Pro Tools, maybe you want to do some tweaks just as experiment, then you could do that. I like to throw on the Rap Caviar playlist, listen to stuff, and then see what levels are these coming in at. So like that song, which is the song Pressure by That's Legend, this is something I've mixed and mastered, so I already know what level it's at, but as an example, you can see it's hitting minus 8.5 right here. So now if that was a reference track, I could try to get my song to hit somewhere near that, so I have an idea of loudness. You could also look at the spectrum, see what frequencies are being peaked up and like how it sits, and compare that to your song, stuff like that. All right, so it's really useful to have that input from Spotify. All right, so that's it for the setup for everything on this end, but now we have to jump into the editing side of things so we could really see what do you have to do to make it all work in the edit, because you can't just stop right there. There's a couple things you still have to do on the editing side. All right, so now we're in the editing side of ScreenFlow. So once the recording finishes, this is what comes up. So I'm gonna start by getting this camera recording here and just taking it out of the way so we don't have to see that. Now, this is what came through. I can press play, you'll hear my voice. Pull forums, I've never found an answer to that. Okay, so that's my voice being recorded. Now let me go ahead and select this and then go to audio. So this is under the speaker right here. Go to audio mix, hit the little down arrow. You're gonna see all the different audio sources here. Now, all of these, I don't know why it does that, but it does just like shows it all crazy like that. I just turn them down just in case anything comes through there. I don't think anything does, but I just turn this all down just in case and get rid of that, except for 21 and 22. So that was that whole virtual 1, virtual 2. This is where it comes in 21, 22 because of in console. That's where it is. So I'm gonna leave 21 and 22 there, get rid of the rest. On 21, I'm going to put the panning all the way to the left. 22, panning goes all the way to the right. And then I just leave it at 100 on both of those, okay? Now, we're gonna have a couple other things that we are setting up as well for the outboard gear, but we'll get to that once it gets there. So let's go ahead and just play some audio here. You'll see this first part is going to be just the original signal here, no outboard gear.
So remember not to wait too long. I can feel the pressure.
All right, so that is what is in Pro Tools right now. No outboard gear yet. That's just the recorded signal. That's what most people are gonna be doing when they're recording stuff in their DAW. Now, if I go over to this part here, if I press play,
so remember not to wait too long.
you hear a double up. So 5 and 6 are the signal from my bus compressor. That's the insert 3 and 4 I have right here on Pro Tools. So if I go ahead and take the 5, pan it to the left, the 6, pan it to the right, so now it's going to be stereo instead of mono, and then I need to take 21 and 22 all the way off. But I don't want to do that for everything. I just want to do it for this signal right here. So I'm going to hit T on the keyboard to cut it, T on the keyboard here, and now just for that section I'm going to take this out. So now all we're going to hear is 5 and 6, which is the audio running through the bus compressor while we were doing it in the recording.
So remember not to wait too long. I can feel the pressure building. Love it when I lose control.
So you could hear me making those adjustments while it was being played. So that's 5 and 6 right there. You could also see the signal. And something you also see is channel 3 has a signal as well. That's my microphone signal. So I don't necessarily need to hear the microphone because I'm not talking over that part. So I could also take this part down as well.
So remember not to wait too long. I can feel the pressure building.
Okay, so now it's just 5 and 6, which was the audio going through my insert 3 and 4, which is my outboard gear out here. And I took off the microphone, took off that doubled up signal on 21 and 22. So now all we hear is that. Let's listen to this section here. This is going to be insert 5 and 6.
So remember not to wait too long.
You can see it's coming out 7 and 8. It's also coming out 21, 22, and 3 for the microphone. So let's go ahead and cut this here. And for this selection only, I'm going to go ahead and take out 21 and 22 and 3, which is my microphone. And this is going to be 7 and 8. So 7, I'm going to pan to the left. 8, I'm going to pan to the right, so it's stereo. And now it's just the audio that's running through the Pro VLA2.
So remember not to wait too long. I can feel the pressure building. Love it when I lose control.
So you can hear I was changing some stuff while I was working with it. And for the last one here, this is going to be the saturation units. So this is going to be 9 and 10.
So remember not to wait too long.
We hear that double up because this is on there. So take out 21 and 22. Take out 3 because that's the microphone. I don't need it. 9, pan to the left. 10, pan to the right. And here it is.
So remember not to wait too long. I can feel the pressure building. Love it when I lose.
You could hear that saturation getting turned up and really driving the signal there. Okay, so that's working with the outboard gear and how to edit it so you could hear just the outboard signal. So I haven't figured out how to use multiple pieces of outboard gear all at once for the screen recording, but I could do it one by one and separate the audio like that. Now for the Spotify output, I could press play here.
I can pack my bag, got my baby mama house left to my side chicks. Wonder how I get some.
It sounds fine. I don't have to do anything. It's just channel 21 and 22 that's being the output because that's the virtual 1 and 2. And the only other thing, if you want, is to go ahead and turn down your mic. I could chop this, take the mic out so you don't hear anything from the mic. It's just the signal itself in its pure form.
Baby mama house left to my side chicks. Wonder how I get some cash today.
Okay, so that's the Spotify signal right there. All right, and that's everything. That's how you get it all set up as far as the audio goes over here. Using the audio mix, muting stuff, panning stuff around is important or else it's just going to stay in mono. Make sure your stereo stuff is stereo. And that's it. So hopefully that helped show you guys how ScreenFlow and the Apollo X8 is set up, how to record your outboard gears signal as well for the screen recording, and how to listen to a Spotify track, get it inside of Pro Tools, and hear that in your ScreenFlow as well. So if you're trying this out, I would love to know what gear are you using and what software are you using, and if it worked fine for you as well. So if you are, go ahead and comment down below. Let me know if it worked for you. This will help other people as well. Say you're using a different interface and you were able to get it to work, then that would be great to know, and other people would like to know that as well. So please let us know if it works for you and what gear you're working with in the comment section down below. All right, so thank you guys for watching this, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.